Darn-tootin. Slap my grandma and call me Jimmy. Ain't nobody in the South talk like that. I swear to God, in my 21 years of living here, nobody talks like that. And today, I'm here to teach you how we do talk. I'm a Southerner, born and raised. I was born in Memphis, Tennessee, grew up there for 11 years, and now I have lived in Florida for the past 10 or so. So I would say I'm a pretty seasoned Southerner. You know, I'm pretty aware of all the euphemisms, the slangs, the accents, the contractions, all of it. I feel like I don't have any one accent or dialect in particular because I've lived in 2 different regions, so I feel like I am the best ambassador for the South because, you know, I've had family that lives all over, you know, I've lived in 2 different states, and, you know, I don't have bias because I'm not clinging just to one state, you know? But the Southern accent and the Southern dialect in general gets a very bad rap. You know, it has a reputation for, you know, sounding unintelligent or being, you know, more comical than anything instead of like revered and respected. And today I would like to change that. So I'm gonna be teaching you guys some of my favorite Southern sayings, some of the favorite verbs that we use, slang from my hometown, which I think is the most exciting part. But first, before we start, I wanted to talk about today's sponsor, which is Hellotalk, where you could easily learn some Southern slang. So I'm sure in the language community, a lot of you guys already use this. I would be surprised if you didn't. But Hellotalk is the world's largest language learning community online. They have over 20 million users from like 200 plus countries, so it's pretty big. What the platform is it basically connects users that are learning different languages to kind of do an exchange of they have like over 150 languages on there, whether it's like, you know, Spanish or Korean or Chinese, Japanese, Portuguese, German, anything. Well, not anything. If you're trying to learn like Yugoslavian sign language, it might be a little tricky. But basically you get matched with language learning partners for free, so I do not see how you could complain about that. So at the top of your profile, you can obviously write the languages that you're like proficient in and the ones that you're learning. So you guys see that I have a couple on my profile. We got English and Portuguese, and then I'm learning German twice. Something's wrong there. I gotta fix that. But anyways, you can see that I'm basically involving a lot of Portuguese, German, and Spanish on my Hellotalk as of late. So this obviously shows people what languages that you're down to exchange or the ones that you might be able to help them in. And something that's also really cool is like the self-introduction, because you can put just a written bio, but you can also put an audio to kind of introduce yourself and let people know what your voice sounds like, because naturally a lot of people use Hellotalk to find like call partners and stuff like that. So it's like you get to know somebody before you actually have to talk to them. It's kind of like Facebook in that you can make posts that are called moments, whether it's like just text or it could be an audio or a picture or different stuff like that, just to post like, oh, hey, this is my life, or you could post specific progress about the language, and you can also get corrections. So like in the comments, people can, you know, cross out things that you wrote and put what's actually correct, which I find really, really useful. This is what I find myself using Hellotalk for about like 70 to 80% of the time. And aside from just posting, you can also chat. And what makes this app really cool in terms of its technical features is that if you long click on a message when you're chatting with somebody, you can translate it, you can transliterate it if you want to change it from like a different writing system into a romanization or vice versa. And you can give each other corrections like right in the chat without it being weird, you know, and because everybody knows that we're here to learn a language, so there's no awkward like, oh, I don't want corrections or any of that. Everybody loves corrections, and that's why everybody's using the app in the first place, you know? Hellotalk has been really useful for me when I started learning Mandarin, and of course when I was trying to get corrections for Portuguese, because there's a ton of Chinese people on the app and there's a ton of Brazilian people on the app, so I cannot express how, you know, helpful it has been for getting corrections and making sure that everything's okay, and, you know, not feeling like I'm bugging my Brazilian friends or my Chinese friends every 5 seconds for corrections. I can just go to the app. So anyways, check it out. I will leave a link in the description, and let's get back to the video. So first, talking about Southern verbs. I feel like we have some verbs that are not really used in other parts of the United States, and I'm not sure why, because they're so fun. First one is to cut up. Now, when I was in elementary school, I heard this a whole lot. You know, when people were misbehaving or acting bad in general, you'd be cutting up. So my teachers would always be like, you'll need to stop cutting up or else you're not going outside for recess. I remember this one time in kindergarten, I was really bad one day. So my teacher, she wrote like a slip that I had to give to my mom that basically informed her that I was being a little shit. And she circled the U for unacceptable on the slip, and you were supposed to write a reason under it. And she wrote, was cutting up in class. So general, yet like it's all you need to know. I feel like this word is generally used more with kids, but still, I think it's super fun. Next one is to stay. Now, stay is a pretty basic word. I would say this is an A1 word, but sometimes we use it to mean to live. So people will be like, hey, where do you stay at? It just means like, where do you reside, in what area, in what type of neighborhood. And the funny thing about the phrase where do you stay at in particular is that the word at is so unnecessary. That just makes me laugh for some reason, because you could just say where do you stay or where do you live, but we're like, hey, emphasis, where do you stay at? And the person will respond like, oh, I stay down by Lakewood, or maybe I stay by the lake. And the last thing relating to verbs, I hear this from my family in Kentucky all the time, is to fix when we're talking about food. I'll be like, oh, I'm about to fix lunch, or even more southern is I'm about to fix supper. Supper is another word for dinner. You know, I would just say I'm about to make dinner, but you know, they always say like, oh, it's getting about time to fix supper. Getting about time to fix supper is probably like the most southern sentence that I could imagine. Food just tastes better when you call it supper. I have no idea why. It's science. Which this word is really interesting because I don't think any other region in the United States calls it supper except for the South, which makes me want to mention that in the UK they say this as well. They'll say like, what are we gonna have for supper? And there's a lot of phrases that we use in the South that, you know, aren't used anywhere else in the US, but rather the UK. Also, for example, reckon. In the South, it wouldn't be uncommon to hear the phrase like, do you reckon she's gonna come home tonight? And they would say that in the UK as well. Let me think of like a really British sentence to use as an example. Do you reckon it's time for tea? It's really interesting because there's a lot of things that, like British English-wise, that have stuck more in the South than in the North, which is surprising because they landed in the North. That's why it's called New England. And generally, I feel like they've had more of like a cultural permanence there than in the South. But linguistically, I feel like we have a lot in common sometimes with the UK. Oh my god, before we move on, another thing just occurred to me that I hear from my family in Kentucky sometimes. The word clam diggers? I remember one time I showed up to my auntie's house. I was wearing some capris. Capris are pants that go just below the knee or like mid-calf. And you know what she said to me? I like your clam diggers. I said, what is that? Because when you go digging for clams, or when you go fishing in general, you're gonna need some pants that you can roll up so that they don't get wet. And incidentally, capris are the best pants for that, so naturally they get called clam diggers in some parts. If you look up clam diggers on Google, you will find the Wikipedia page for capris. And I don't even wear capris, so I don't get the chance to say this that often, but I'm considering it just so I can be like, hey, I'm wearing my clam diggers today. Anyways, moving on from verbs, we're gonna go into some sayings, because growing up with like a Southern mom means that you're always getting like these weird like prophecy sayings that she's using to teach you a lesson. So I've gotten a lot of them over the time. So the first one is till the cows come home. We use this to talk about things that are like unlikely or things that are like likely gonna take a lot of time. So if I say like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna be working till the cows come home, it's like I do not see the end to this activity. Because I don't know if you guys have ever seen cows physically, but they are slow animals and they're very, very hard to herd. So, you know, herding cows and getting them all in one place to bring them home takes a shit ton of time. So naturally we made a saying out of it. Oh my god, I would hear this all the time from my mom when I was a kid. She'd be like, oh my gosh, the cows are gonna get home before your sister does. And the next one is, well, I'll be. Well, I'll be. And people say it with that cadence every single time. Like, when you cannot believe something, you'll be like, well, I'll be. And I'm pretty sure it comes from like, well, I'll be damned, but eventually we just shortened it down to, well, I'll be. And like I said, this could just be used to express disbelief, or maybe if you want to like show someone that you don't really believe what they're saying, or like insinuate that they're lying, they'll be like, well, I'll be. I didn't know that. We're a very shady people, if you have not noticed. Now next, as I was coming up with phrases and like thinking of things to put in this video, I realized that a lot of the sayings I wanted to put in have something to do with lying. And that makes like a cultural reference, because I think in general Southerners are very, very, how do I say, we do not like liars. We do not like people that do not carry through on their word. We do not like people that do not keep their promises. And, you know, we just don't like lies in general. So naturally we have a shit ton of phrases and sayings to compensate for it, because, you know, who likes a liar? The first one is telling stories. I would hear this all the time growing up. People would be like, oh my god, she loves to tell stories, or like she loves to fabricate things. When you're accusing somebody, be like, ooh, you are telling stories, or if you know somebody's lying to you. This is great for compulsive liars that love to tell stories just because. Then we also have to lie on someone. And I'm not talking about literally like physically lying on someone. I'm talking about like implicating somebody else in your lie, or making up a story about somebody. So if I was like, I'm not the one that finished the jar of peanut butter, it was her. Stop lying on me. It's a despicable thing to lie on somebody, because like, why? Okay, you can lie by yourself, but why you gotta put me into it? I remember I laughed so hard at the part in the R. Kelly interview with Gayle King where, you know, he has all these like rape and abuse accusations, and he was just like, they're lying on me.
You're saying everything they said in that documentary about you is not true.
They are lying on me.
So they're lying on you. That's your explanation. They're lying on you.
Absolutely.
Like, when I saw that, I started screaming because it like, to lie on someone, to say that, it just has, like, such a, I don't know, it makes it seem like it's about such a light topic matter, you know, like lying about, you know, who finished the jar of peanut butter, not about having, like, 5 or 10, 15 rape accusations.
Use your common sense.
Which, it's worth mentioning that R. Kelly is not from the South. I'm pretty sure he's from Chicago, but that also brings to mind the fact that there's a lot of overlap between just Southern U.S. American English and African American vernacular English. I'm pretty sure over time we've had like a higher population of Black people living in the South. So naturally it's like whatever things have kind of transferred over, have just transferred over. I grew up in a city that has like a larger Black population than anything else. So when you're growing up and you hear those things, it's like you don't realize that that's what it is, so you're surrounded by certain people, you just say it as well. It's an interesting topic when we talk about like appropriation of African American vernacular English, because, you know, there's people that say it because like they just adopt trendy words, and then there's people that, you know, are not Black but have grown up in regions like that. But I digress. You guys can do that research on your own. I just wanted to, you know, drop that right there. Now the next one, I feel like it's not even a general Southern saying, but my mom always used to say it, so I have like a feeling that she got it from somebody else. A lie from the pit of the devil. And this is so Southern for 2 reasons. First of all, because Southerns are always talking about the devil and putting it into everything.
They was describing Lucifer, but I'm not a devil.
For example, like if it's raining while the sun is shining, a lot of people just call that sun shower, like I do myself, but some people say it's the devil beating his wife. I don't know, I feel like the South is generally more religion, like there's a lot of Christian and Catholic people down here, so that naturally the devil just kind of makes his way into all our like proverbs and everything. But the second reason it's so Southern is that she would always say it with like this really jumpy cadence. She'd be like, ooh, that is a lie from the pit of the devil. That is very exaggerated, by the way. My mom does not talk like that, but when she was mad, I feel like her Southern accent would come out so much more. She would make it so much more like exaggerated. So like if I was looking my mom in the face and I told her a lie, she would just, that is a lie from the pit of the devil. Like, that's a lie and you know it. So that is like the worst accusation you can get from your Southern parent. We're gonna move on now to some slangs that are specific to my city. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I grew up in Memphis, Tennessee. Now, when I said that I don't have bias, I'm a little biased because I think that our slang is like some of the best slang in the whole South. And I know it's Memphian because I've never heard it anywhere else but Memphis. So, the first one is to cone. And when I say cone, it's a verb, so like you can cone something, but it's also a noun. So like if you call somebody a cone. And the meaning, I had a really hard time trying to like come up with just like a single definition for this, but it means to take advantage of something that's free in like a despicable way. Like there's a negative connotation around it. So like for example, if you're at the bank and you see the little like courtesy station where they have like, you know, shitty coffee and then like the sugar packets and the creamers and whatnot, and you take all the sugar packets and take them home, you're not necessarily committing a crime because you're not stealing it, but you're like being inconsiderate and like you just want the free stuff to take to your house yourself. And like the super cone thing is to do that and just like tear open all the sugar packets and pour them into your bag of sugar so that you don't have to go spend $1.29 at the store, you know what I mean? So yeah, being a cone is like there's like a negative context around it. It's like, dude, you are such a cone, but it's like I can't be mad at you because I would have did the same thing. A cone is basically like a cheapskate that takes advantage of their situation, and I myself am a proud cone. I cone things all the time, especially being at university. Like last week, I think it was in my dining hall, they had like a lot of the machinery that they used to cook was down, so they just had like a lot of pre-wrapped like sandwiches and like muffins and a lot of shit like that. And it was early, so you know there was a lot of food out, and I just took like 2 of everything and put it into my bag and took it home because I pay thousands of dollars to this school every semester to eat there, so I might as well take advantage of things when I can. So if you are a cone, do not be ashamed. You are welcome in Memphis. The next one is to jack. This has 2 meanings. The first one is to steal. So like this is, you know, the opposite of coning. Coning is just taking advantage of something that's free, whereas to jack something like at the store is like you're putting it in your coat and you're leaving. It'd be like, yo, look what I just jacked from Kroger. Or like if your car gets jacked, that's why they call it a carjacking. And the second meaning is to fight. So I remember growing up in the public school system, there's always somebody fighting for no goddamn reason. So they'd be like, yo, they jacking over there, they jacking. If you see a big crowd of people and you hear a lot of hooting and hollering, you can assume that somebody is jacking inside. And you don't say like they jacked with each other or they jacked each other, it's just they jacked. Which I feel like this definition is kind of like questionable, you know, when you involve people in it, because there's also a meaning of the word just in general. U.S. American English that is kind of dirty. So I do not use the second definition so much, but I'm just going to throw it out there. And lastly, the most Memphis word that I can think about is to check. Now, this was even harder to come up with a definition for than to cone, because it's not just a word, there's like a culture and a whole concept behind it. To check somebody is to basically just insult them, usually on something really petty, like their outfit or their shoes, or just like, I don't know, just like the way they act or something. So the cool thing about checking is that it mostly always comes up in a format. So the format is like blank looking ass or wearing ass, having ass, something like that. So if somebody comes in wearing Skechers, it's like, man, get your Skechers wearing ass. It's just like you're critiquing somebody on something that is very petty. And the thing about checking is that it's usually like just to get laughs out of somebody. Like if there's other people around you that you know are gonna laugh at it too, your checks are gonna be a little bit better. I can do a whole video essay on checking and how it like influences Memphis culture, but basically, I don't know, it's like an act of camaraderie when you check somebody. But I find myself all the time, you know, when I'm just like critiquing some like stupid celebrity photo, I'm like, but she really thought that dress was cute or something like that, and I'll be like, you know what, let me stop checking. I'll put some videos down in the description because I'm sure I could find videos about this specifically, but it is like the most Memphis thing. So if you ever hear me say like stop checking, it's like, you know, go easy on him or something like that. Anyways, before we close, I wanted to leave you guys with like the most southern way to kind of say goodbye, or like the most southern pleasantry I could think of. And it occurred to me the other day when I was riding my bike on the sidewalk. It was like a really narrow sidewalk, and there was like two guys talking on one side and I was coming through on the other, and they moved over just so I could get through. So, you know, I was acknowledging the niceness, but also, you know, just saying goodbye by saying, y'all take care now. And to say y'all take care is southern enough, but to say y'all take care now, that now just adds like a lot of emphasis. Like, I'll be checking up on you, or like, you really take care of yourself, okay? And I think that reflects a lot of like the niceness and general like southern hospitality that people are always talking about. Of course, we have like a lot of problematic shit in the South. We have a lot of like closed-minded people and a lot of people that make it a shitty experience to live here sometimes. But stuff like that, when you get a y'all take care, or just a take care in general, it's like, it's a good day to be in the South. So anyways, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you learned a lot about not just Southern language, but also way of life, culture, things like that. I will leave my social media in the description, but if you want to follow me on Twitter, that's Elysse Vega. On Instagram, Elysse Speaks. That's ELYSSE SPEAKS. Y'all take care now, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.